Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Emily and today I'm going to be doing a 1500 subscriber Q&A. I realize that I now have 1700 subscribers, but better late than never. First of all, I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to me and has supported my channel through all of my years on YouTube. A lot of you have seen me through massive creative shifts in my channel and seen me through different events in my life. A lot of you have also had to put up with massive droughts in content while I tried to navigate grad school and other goings on in my life. So I'm really grateful for all of you and I hope to create more content that you will enjoy in the future. So I put out posts on Instagram stories and Twitter and the YouTube community tab, and I asked if you had any questions that you wanted me to answer. And some of you got back to me and there are some really amazing questions here. So let's get right to it. Let's get to the Q&A. So Patrick asked me, do you plan to expand your subject matter in the future? So Patrick is a big supporter of my channel and a very loyal subscriber of mine. He comments on a lot of my videos and also on a lot of my Twitter posts as well. So Patrick, I really want to express my appreciation for you first of all. As to your question, if I want to expand my subject matter in the future, absolutely. Those of you who've been observing my channel for the past few months have probably observed that I've been posting a lot more videos in the film area of things. I've recently gotten very interested in the video essay community on YouTube and especially on the film critique side of things. So I'll admit I have been in a creative dilemma. I want to keep creating booktube content, but at the same time I'm so interested in video essays and film critique, but of course those videos take up so much more time and effort. So I'm hoping to dip my toes more into the video essay side of things in the future, but also keep booktube as my bedrock. And of course right now I am also working on a video that is very much a film critique video. My friend Allison asked me, what book would you recommend to someone who hasn't read in 3+ years? Well, I probably wouldn't start with anything too big, like a big immersive fantasy novel or anything. Depending on your tastes, I would probably go into the graphic novel side of things first. I think graphic novels are a great thing for breaking any sort of reading slump. The graphic novels I've enjoyed have been the Sandman graphic novels, for instance, or anything by Alan Moore. But on the safe side, if you want to stay kind of lighthearted and you don't want anything too intense, I would recommend something like the Saga series. Everyone's been talking about it, but it's basically a space opera series about two people from two different alien races who are supposed to be fighting, but they get together and they have a baby together and they're trying to run away from their respective factions. There's also Paper Girls, which is kind of like Stranger Things with that kind of 80s vibe, but with all girls. There is also The Wicked and the Divine, which is a graphic novel series about different deities, but they have reincarnated as young and famous and glamorous people on Earth, but they only get to live for a few years. So those are some starting recommendations. These series all have amazing artwork. They're kind of fun and they're also very immersive without being too intense or heavy going. So whenever someone comes to me with a reading slump or they just want to get back into reading for the first time in years, I go graphic novel immediately. My friend Christopher asked me a few questions. First, thoughts, feelings on where female sci-fi is going. So admittedly, I don't frequently read that much sci-fi. I'm just realizing that. I know sci-fi that I've really enjoyed by female authors in the past few years have been Nnedi Okorafor's Binti series. I kind of liked Becky Chambers' Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet. I enjoyed the first of Martha Wells' Murderbot series. A lot of the female sci-fi I've read and have enjoyed has been very character-driven and has been a bit softer. I'm also super interested in a lot of works in Afrofuturism that have been coming out. So yeah, I kind of like that more humanistic, person-centered focus in sci-fi. So it's not that I don't like expansive worlds in sci-fi and with a lot of mechanical detail. I mean, I love Frank Herbert's Dune, but I also really love when sci-fi is very humanistic and character-centered. Tell me about a time a trope you absolutely hated moved you to tears for being good. I don't know if a trope ever necessarily moved me to tears, but I know there's one time that a trope moved me very much. So love triangles. I typically don't like them. They irritate me. It was kind of irritating in the Hunger Games and absolutely annoying in Twilight. A lot of times there are two people who are just going to be together. That's kind of a given, and then there's a third party in there that's just sort of in the way, and you're just waiting for them to get out of the way so those two other people can get together. Now, a few years ago, I read the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare, and I was a bit frustrated at first when I realized there was going to be a love triangle, but the execution of that love triangle was one of the best I had seen. Like, all three people in that love triangle really genuinely cared for each other and liked things about each other, and there was never anything petty about any of it. So definitely that was a really excellent love triangle. So you have Tessa Gray, who is picking between Will Herondale and Jem Carstairs, and you can see reasons why she works really well with Will, and you can also see why it could work out really well with Jem. And then also, Will and Jem are friends, so even though they're in love with the same woman, they don't even really fight. They're really willing to let the other person have her. That kinship is just really much stronger than any sort of petty dispute they could have. So yeah, that was a love triangle that I really enjoyed. Books you wish you'd send back in time that would have fundamentally changed you / helped. Definitely one of the books I would send back in time to my undergraduate self would be Light Magic for Dark Times by Lisa Marie Basile. My undergraduate years were some of the hardest of my life. I had such identity crisis. I didn't really know which direction I was going to go in life. I was watching everyone around me be very confident about what they were going to do with themselves, and I was just kind of lost. So I think the introduction of magic would have really helped me and would have been a very good therapy for me. This book doesn't really push you towards any particular witchcraft path or any particular belief. It's just so compassionately written. It's all just magical exercises and practices to help you just be content with yourself, but also explore what is troubling you at a deeper level. And I think this is the sort of magic book that would have really helped me at the time. I don't think I was really in a state to be pushed towards Wicca or heathenry or hedge witchery or anything like that. I just needed some sort of therapeutic practice. And I would recommend this book to any of you as well if you're not particularly ready for any particular witchcraft path or magical path, but you are curious about magic and you're also going through a rough patch as well. What have been your favorite movies / shows released this year? Anything you're anticipating? Man, this is really tough because in COVID times, there's not really a whole lot that has come out recently. Oh, I know, Clone Wars Season 7. So my boyfriend and I, we marathoned all of Clone Wars earlier this year, probably at the beginning of lockdown. Around the same time, Clone Wars Season 7 was just releasing, so we couldn't watch it yet. But then we finally got around to the last season of Clone Wars and we were absolutely blown away. Not by all of the episodes, some of them just dragged a whole lot, but the conclusion was amazing. And yeah, we really loved that show. So yeah, I loved Clone Wars. The second season of Umbrella Academy was pretty good. I'm pretty sure I enjoyed the second season of Sex Education as well. I did enjoy the third season of Medici. I'm really sad that show is over now. Oh, and Midnight Gospel. That show is really amazing. So Midnight Gospel is basically this comedian's podcast, and the podcast is set to really psychedelic footage. So it's sort of setting the podcast in the context of this a super trippy sci-fi world. So the main character is this guy who's kind of a deadbeat and lives in this area of the universe called the Chromatic Ribbon. And he uses this machine to enter into different virtual alternative Earths, which are on the brink of apocalypse in one way or another. He goes into these worlds primarily to scavenge for different goods and technology, but he also, along the way, interviews different people he encounters there. So he'll go to these places and maybe he'll interview one of the creatures who IRL is someone he's actually interviewing face to face. Maybe they're a writer or something. And they'll maybe talk about dealing with death. It's also an experience of cognitive dissonance because they're just kind of talking like they're people in real life, but on the screen you see them as people in these weird situations, like being ground up for meat. I might actually rewatch that again because I feel like that dissonance between what you're hearing and seeing on screen sometimes leads you to miss certain pieces of information. But it was definitely a very unique watching experience. I do recommend. My friend Kyle also asked me a few questions. What inspired you to start doing YouTube in the first place, and where do you hope to take your channel? I might have addressed this in my BookTube newbie tag, but when I first started YouTube, it wasn't really for any particular reason. It was really just a thing for me to do to update my friends about what I was doing and how I was doing. I had just moved to North Carolina at the time. I just gotten my first big girl job. I was super lonely. I didn't really know anybody yet. And I was dealing with a couple issues of my own, so being able to focus on something and make something and put it out there, it was a great channel for a lot of my frustration and a lot of things I was going through. I was also at the time really inspired by the likes of Hank and John Green of Vlogbrothers Nerdfighteria. So I was kind of doing videos in that style, just talking about whatever. If you go back to my backlog of videos, you'll know that I didn't really have a topic or a genre. I didn't really fit anywhere on YouTube. If you go back to, say, 2016, you can see that my most popular and most viewed video is a video about Ian Curtis and mental health. Like, how that video grew was completely unexpected. I was just really looking to just talk to people about whatever I wanted. And it's only as of February 2017 that I really started to do BookTube in earnest. I went to NerdCon, which was the convention celebrating 10 years of Nerdfighteria, and I went to a BookTube panel, and I was just really inspired to do BookTube and realized I should have been doing that the whole time. So since then, I've been doing BookTube, but as I addressed earlier with Patrick's question, I am hoping to take this channel in some different directions. I'm really hoping to expand into video essays and film critique, and just generally make more creative videos that have different editing styles. And of course, I also really want to express my love of fandom, especially in the Star Wars fandom. Lately, one of my great passions has been exploring Star Wars and the lore in Star Wars. That's just a love that I would like to share with all of you as well. Kyle also asked me, what fictional character from literature has had the biggest impact on you so far? If you want to talk about a singular literary character, probably Tyrion Lannister. I think Tyrion Lannister has been one of the most inspirational characters to me in pretty much all of literature. Of course, he is from A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. He is a character with dwarfism, so that disability leads him to be very much stigmatized by the people around him, even though he belongs to a noble house. But he's always really determined to compensate for that through his intelligence. He reads widely, he's always observing the world around him, and he's always thinking of new ideas. And he's always really full of witty pearls of truth. I have an entire quote book of Tyrion Lannister. Why he's been inspirational to me in particular, I don't have dwarfism, of course, but as a particularly small person, I know what it is like to be severely underestimated in my physical abilities and what I'm capable of. People kind of expect you to be this really meek, submissive person when they see that you are small, and I always like having opportunities to subvert that. And there also have been other situations in my life where I feel like I have been disadvantaged, not just because of my size, but because maybe I'm not as good at something as somebody else around me. There were times in my early 20s where I really doubted my ability to function as a proper adult. And Tyrion Lannister is always there for me to help me realize that I do have my own unique abilities that I can bring to the table. And even if I'm not as skilled in one area as somebody else, I always have another area in which I am better in some way. So yeah, he's a character who helps me get through a lot of really tough situations. If you could fan cast your favorite novel, who would you cast for which role? When I saw this question, I was really excited. I went back into my archive on Pinterest where I've actually fan cast a few books myself. I think the one that I've thought through the most thoroughly is Three Dark Crowns. And of course, if you've been watching my channel, you know that Three Dark Crowns is one of my favorite YA fantasy series. So I'm going to talk about that one because I've just thought through that one the most and I love those books. So first, for the three sisters who are the main characters of that series. So for Catherine, I would cast Jenna Louise Coleman. You've probably seen her as Clara on Doctor Who or as Queen Victoria on that show Victoria, because Jenna Louise Coleman has sort of that delicate but sharp look on her. For Mirabella, I would probably cast Katie McGrath, who was on Merlin as Morgana. Katie McGrath is so beautiful and she really looks like royalty. I mean, she has played royalty on Merlin. She always looks so powerful and you can really envision her doing amazing, awesome, badass elemental magic. Arsinoe was tough for me because I don't like Arsinoe, but I imagine her as Kaya Scodelario. I know Kaya Scodelario is known for being sort of this femme fatale on skins, but I think she can also pass off as being this sort of scrappy heroine. So Peter, who is Catherine's love interest, in my mind, he was always Jamie Campbell Bower for me. It has to be Jamie Campbell Bower. So for Jules, who is Arsinoe's friend and has a whole Queenmaker plot in the latter books, I don't care about her either. I don't really like her. When I envision her, she always looks like either Jodie Comer or Jennifer Lawrence. For Billy Chatworth, who is Arsinoe's love interest, I didn't really care much about him either, but I imagine Dominic Sherwood, who is in the Shadowhunters show. Luca, who is that high priestess person, probably Helen Mirren. Madrigal, who is Jules's mom, I imagine Alyssa Sutherland, who was Aslaug on Vikings. Natalia has got to be Gillian Anderson because of course she can pass off that really smooth political role, the person who can smooth things over. And Joseph, I would probably imagine Tom Hughes, who is also in Victoria as Prince Albert. So yeah, that's kind of a comprehensive fan cast for Three Dark Crowns. And finally, Victoria asked me, I'd like to learn a lot more about the contemporary witchcraft scene. Where on earth would I begin with reading for that? This is tough because the contemporary witchcraft scene is so diverse and it's always changing. I think a good place to actually start with learning about contemporary witchcraft is probably podcasts. I think podcasts are a good place to get a taste of contemporary witchcraft without swallowing too much at a time, because witchcraft is so complicated and diverse. It's a heavily complex topic and it can be really hard to get a comprehensive take on it. So I'd start with, say, Pam Grossman's The Witch Wave. I also really like the Fat Feminist Witch podcast. I also really like New World Witchery. And of course, beyond podcasts, there are some great YouTubers that you could go to. I know Harmony Nice is a great resource for Wicca and some basic spells to start with, and she also has a great series of videos about each holiday in the Wheel of the Year. There's also the Witch of Wonderlust, who talks about a wide range of magical topics and also posts some spells that she has done herself, and also reviews magical books here and there. And I think there's also a lot of books that have recently come out that have been really big. I know Pam Grossman came out with a book called Waking the Witch, which is more of an autobiography, memoir / sort of reflections on the imagery of witchcraft. Harmony Nice had a great basic book on Wicca. It's a great updated and basic look at the religion. I think Juliet Diaz has a great book called Witchery. I guess if you want to go a lot deeper into Wicca, I recommend Vivian Crowley and Scott Cunningham. Craft by Gabriella Herstick is also pretty good. It doesn't have affinity towards Wicca or really one path of witchcraft, but it's a good beginner's book. So that is a list of a few resources that you can go to when starting to learn about contemporary witchcraft. It is really tough to just select a small number of books to start with, because really not one book can really introduce you to all of witchcraft. So I recommend starting with those resources and then branching out from there. They all recommend their own set of books that they learned from as well. All these authors do. So that's it for my Q&A. This went on a lot longer than I anticipated. Again, thank you to all of my subscribers. I would not be here without any of you. If you have stumbled across this video, you are welcome to become another one of my subscribers. And of course, like this video if you liked it. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Goodreads. And as always, I will see you in my next video.